All right, it's Judd in Dubay. We're taking the air. It's Monday, 9:01. See that? Leslie Frazier's been fired about an hour ago. This is real, heart of the city newsroom stuff. We're gonna give you the first segment here. Okay, shut up. We're on here. Live mics, hot mics. No talking.
Get that hair looking good.
Huh? Oh wait, let's get some Judd time. Judd. There he is.
All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna go around this way.
Didn't take long for that to happen. The firings have started in the National Football League, and Leslie Frazier is among the first to fall. This comes as no surprise. Basically, I think it's been a foregone conclusion for a few weeks here that the Vikings coach would be out, and the Vikings issued a statement this morning that got into my email inbox at 7:59, Jeff Dubay.
Yeah, I was sitting there reading the paper, and Harrigan had to come in and point my head at the TV to show that ESPN was reporting.
Because Schefter and Mortensen were talking about it on ESPN. Here is the statement, and we will proceed from there, gentlemen. The show, by the way, obviously Judd Dubay, Zolgad Dubay, Dave Harrigan producing. This from Ziggy Wilf. We have tremendous respect and appreciation for Leslie and what he has done for the Minnesota Vikings. He stepped in and established a strong, positive culture here, and he has been the consummate professional as our head coach and in the community. Making this change is difficult, but what we determined is best for the organization. Quote, Rick Spielman, the GM of the team. Unfortunately, we did not achieve consistent success, did not achieve the progress we expected. We believe a coaching change is needed to help build a successful team moving forward. A news conference, 2 o'clock today at Winter Park. Jeff,
does every team have that letter on file?
Of course they do.
Rubber stamp it?
Of course they do, and they change a couple words each time they fire a head coach. Like I said, no surprise here, and I guess if for the Vikings' sake, for Frazier's sake, the sooner they got this done on Monday, the better.
Yeah, but don't you think it's also to get themselves on the front end of the coaching search, of the job hunt? I mean, I don't want them to, like you said on TV this morning. You want to take your time. I mean, we've bought into the hot guy, to the next phenom, the up and comer. And that just never seems to work. I mean, once a guy starts getting the reputation that this is going to be the next guy, this is going to be the next big coach, and everybody wants him, and all of a sudden everyone's talking about him. I mean, the two that popped into my head right away are Spagnuolo and Childress. And they were disasters, unmitigated.
Big buddies.
And now that's O'Brien. Would you not say that O'Brien fits the glass slipper perfectly this year for that? I mean, he's the guy who's the flavor of the month. He's the guy that everybody's got on top of their list for, and that just always scares me. I mean, like you said, catcher, free agent catcher from a World Series team is a little overrated. I think as soon as a coach is coveted by everyone, he's got to be overrated because he can't be that good.
Now, I saw a report yesterday that Bill O'Brien, the Penn State coach, might be named head coach of the Houston Texans as early as, get this, Tuesday.
No, so they've had the opening for a while.
Off the radar. Now, the Vikings can start their search. We all know in reality they started their search probably, 2 weeks ago? That they started making overtures and feelers. Now, just because somebody from the O'Brien...
Maybe even sooner, we didn't even hear about them.
Yeah, right, I was going to say, the key thing with the O'Brien situation is, for whatever reason, somebody from his camp leaked that. The team's never going to leak that out.
No.
So if the Vikings made one call on Bill O'Brien, odds are they've made plenty of calls by now. Here's the key to the hire, in my opinion, and we should find this out, hopefully, although they'll probably evade the question this afternoon, but we'll figure this out pretty quickly. Who makes this hire? Is it Rick Spielman, the GM, who I think would go after a college coach and or a coordinator?
Well, the Wolves don't have the acumen to do it.
No, they don't, but what I'm saying is there are a few big names, big hitters out there. The John Gruden who the Wilfs could say, I really am enamored with this guy.
Sure. And then they'd be good choices. I mean, if they go for a big name, a safe name.
But you go for a big name, you usurp Spielman's power. You let Spielman make the hire, what we're going to see is, for the first time, the GM work in tandem, hire the head coach, and then work in tandem with that head coach.
Well, yeah, don't you think that one of the biggest problems, if not the biggest problem this team had this year, was that the best interests of the head coach were not the best interests of the GM? I mean, clearly. I mean, with Ponder's future, or present, for that matter, they were in complete polar opposites.
Well, and
with a number of players, And I think what Spielman's going to do is he's going to go out there and try a mini. He's going to find a mini-me. He's going to find a little, like a 5-foot-tall version of himself.
You better find a quarterback guru.
Well, but I think he wants to sit in a room until he meets his mirror personality. I mean, it's got to be somebody who's got the same ideals for personnel. For just the same philosophies. And I think it is good to have a GM and a coach who are of like mind. rather than feuding and forcing quarterbacks on each other's throat.
And can we all agree at this point now the pressure will shift not to the new head coach, but clearly to Rick Spielman, because that's where it should go.
For the draft?
Yeah. Everything.
Well, yeah.
This is now his baby. If he's allowed to handle this becomes his baby.
Well, the new coach clearly have no culpability. I mean, his hands are clean. So it's like coming in after Watergate.
But the Wilfs love Spielman, and they're going to give him, let's say they give him complete control here still.
Yeah.
All right, so now the pressure goes from Leslie Frazier, before him Brad Childress, right onto the shoulders of Rick Spielman.
Mm-hmm.
And he cannot miss on the next quarterback. Nope. He cannot miss on this coach. He is going to be working under a ton of pressure to actually get this thing right, because the lack of consistency here is the one thing that stands out to you.
Well, I think I'd be really troubled if he was working comfortably. I want him to be hot.
I agree.
I think it should be hot. It should be very hot.
Did you see the quotes from Leslie yesterday going out the door at his press conference, which I really appreciated? He started to go in this direction maybe a couple weeks ago, and I'm glad he finally did it. I only wish Leslie had pulled aside somebody like my guy Scoggins early in the season and said, Chip, I can't be on the record with this, but this Ponder situation is in no way my decision. Well, Leslie has finally come out, and for him, this is swinging, okay?
Okay.
Looking at the story from ESPN.com's Ben Gessling, who will join us at 11:20. These are post-game quotes from Leslie given to everybody in the media. Talking about the quarterback decision. When we made those decisions early in the season regarding our quarterback, you're making decisions based on, in my mind, the short-term and the long-term, Leslie said. When we decided to stay with Christian, there was a reason why we did that at the time. Now, in retrospect, you can look back and say, well, maybe you should have done this. But we've talked about why we did what we did, and if it worked out, there would be no second guessing. It didn't, but we knew why we did it. We knew why we did what we did. And then he went on to say, in this position, when you're talking about the quarterback position, you don't make these decisions alone. The quarterback position, this is a franchise position.
Sadly, you should. The coach should be making those decisions alone.
It's a collective decision. At the end of the day,
dysfunctional.
At the end of the day, I'm the head coach, but when it comes to the quarterback, it's not like inserting an offensive guard, a wide receiver, or a tight end. That's a completely different matter. So believe me, there was discussion in each of those situations, meaning ownership, GM, and coach decided on the quarterback. This was not Leslie working alone.
To be successful, don't you think a head coach has to have lineup autonomy? I mean, it's got to be all up to him. I mean, who's on the field?
It should be, but did you ever believe it was?
Put those guys on. They fill rosters.
I agree with you.
The coach puts the guys on the field.
I agree with you, but do you ever believe it was his?
No.
Solely,
that's why this thing was completely dysfunctional. His best interests were not Spielman's best interests.
And he tried to fall on that sword.
Yeah, but I mean, that's why Spielman's going to go out and try to find a mini-me. He's going to find a little Rick Spielman who thinks just like he does.
So in your mind, if we're handing out culpability for 2013 5-10-1 Vikings finish?
Oh boy, it's a long one.
How do you distribute it?
You know what? I saw a headline in one of the papers today about the it might have even been on our website about the Wilfs level of culpability, and I don't see that. I mean, you don't expect them to come on.
Huge.
You don't come on. You don't. What kind of football decisions do you think they're going to make? I mean, they're writing checks. They're doing what they got to do.
Here's why.
I mean, they're ripping out people in New Jersey.
You didn't read the whole story.
I didn't read any of it. The headline pissed me off.
The Wilfs are.
I'm just kidding.
The Wilfs are very culpable for what's gone on for one simple reason.
Mafia?
Do you know what nothing to do with off the field. Do you know what the Vikings ownership group talked about from the day they arrived here? As longtime Giants fans?
It's company line stuff. I mean...
No, it wasn't. Do you know what they talked about? What was the most important thing?
I don't.
Not yo-yoing. Consistent success.
Yeah.
Now, we were going to build something, and the Wilfs are very culpable. I'll give you the exact reason why. First of all, let me read you the records. The Wilfs have a huge role in the Vikings' failures. Has nothing to do with them making decisions for on field.
But don't just tell me this happened while they were owners. Tell me what they did to cause it.
I will tell you. I will tell you, and I'll give you a first, and I will give you something.
You're putting me in my place.
And I will give you something I told Ziggy Wilf years ago that made perfect sense, and he didn't listen to me until it was too late.
We're not even at our first break, and you're putting me in my place.
Vikings records since 2005.
Mm-hmm.
Since 2005, Mike Tice 9-7.
He was given no opportunity to win.
Fired after that.
He was paid less than coordinators in the league.
You are going to be buying what I'm selling by the time I'm done.
All right.
2006, Vikings under Brad Childress, first-year head coach, 6-10. 2007, 8-8. 2008, 10-6, won the division, lost in the wild card game to Philly. Mm-hmm. 2009, 12-4, won the division, lost in the NFC title game to the Saints. You are now building what you said you wanted to build.
Come on.
Wait. So you want to build a consistent winner. Now, as of 2009, you're doing pretty well for yourself.
But you know Favre's a Band-Aid. That's not building anything.
I know. And that's where it falls apart. 2010, you go 6-10 with Favre, and he gets hurt. 2011, you fall to 3-13. 2012, 10-6. 2013, 5-10-1. That means a ownership group that came here saying we want consistency, we don't want up and down seasons, we don't want, I believe their quote was, a division title one year and a last place finish the next year, has put together back-to-back winning seasons over 500 twice since 2005.
Okay, well, the one thing they did wrong was say all that stuff at their press conference when they bought the team, because they didn't make.
Now they've said it repeatedly.
Okay, well, whatever. That thing, they've just got to back off on that. The things that you can't make promises you can't keep.
All right, but
I mean, you got to go get Favre if you can go get Favre and be good for a year. You got to.
But here's the problem. Here's where
don't choke on your philosophy.
Here's where the Wilfs have their biggest dilemma in what they wanted to do. Because I agree with you. They don't build the team on the field. It's not like they're not Jerry Jones, okay?
No.
So let's give them the benefit of the doubt that they're not trying to force feed what goes on the field. Here's where it falls apart. They've never been able to decide what the heck they want to do. And here's where
what do you mean by that?
Here's what I'll say this. 2005, I'm going to give them a pass. They have a coach on the last year of his contract. They're new owners.
Yes.
They really don't know what they're doing. The Love Boat happens. They take over a team that is playing at Winter Park, which is a complete joke at the time. They put in a lot of money to that.
And these guys are Eastern Seaboard, big city guys, slick, and they were just Midwestern yokels.
Let's give them a pass on 2005. 2006, they hired Childress.
Yes.
They give Childress complete control of the roster.
That means a jerk.
That means he was a jerk right away. And they hire as his personnel guy Fran Foley. You or I could have vetted the process and not hired that idiot. Fran Foley, you talk about a jerk. He made Brad look like a saint.
Well, yeah, he was kind of NFL's version of David Kahn.
And then he lied on the resume, and then he was
who hasn't?
And then he was such a jerk to people at Winter Park that they fire him in May of his first year. He doesn't even get through a full season. So then they hire Spielman. Things with Spielman are going fantastic. The Wilfs love Rick Spielman. In the preseason of 2007 or 2008, I'm in the end zone on the field in Seattle when I'm covering the team for the Star Tribune. And I'm talking to Ziggy, and I say, Ziggy, if you like Rick so much, you know it makes a lot of sense. Name him your GM. Make him your GM. Have him have the authority. Now, at this point in time, no one's saying who has authority on things. So I don't know that Childress has complete say on the 53.
And we're talking about a franchise that historically has a very muddled chain of command.
Yes. And Ziggy says, why change things? They're great. All right? So then, 2010, midway through the season, you fire a coach who's just taken you to the NFC title game because he has released a player without ever telling you he was going to release that player.
Well, it's very Frankenstein's monster-like. I mean, all you needed was villagers chasing Childress with a torch.
So now in
created a monster.
So now in 2011, you come back, you go 3-13. After that season, what do? You take good old Judd's suggestion. You name Spielman as your GM, give him authority of the 53 man, because in 2011, two guys, Spielman and Frazier, had complete say of the roster. Makes no sense. What I'm saying is the Wilfs have never given themselves a chance to have the consistent success they want because they've never had a consistent model.
Had they bought a team that had a GM, they would have known what it's like firsthand. I mean, it's like
a sports writer told them in 2007 or 8 what they should do.
But I mean, they bought a dysfunctional franchise and thought it was functional. So I mean, they didn't know any better.
How dumb do you have to be not to see that thing was so dysfunctional? Is unbelievable.
What would they have to base on? I mean, what's their background? I mean, what would they know of dysfunction? Well,
they're football fans. I'm a football fan. I could have done a better job. If they had come to me and said, "This is what we want," I could have given them a blueprint that would have worked better than what they've done.
Intimidating people into real estate deals doesn't give you football acumen. I mean,
but they're football fans, and so am I. Why did I know that they should? Why did I know the direction they should have gone years before they did? When they're telling me what their blueprint is.
Well, for one thing, you've been here. You've seen the dysfunction for many, many years. They're brand new to it. I mean, at the time.
And I gave them 1 year to learn.
Well, that's a pretty steep curve. And you need a Rosetta Stone of dysfunction to pick it up that quick.
What I'm saying is the Wilfs have never given themselves the opportunity to get what they want, which is consistent success.
Yeah, I see that. But I mean, again,
not to mention the fact, look at the quarterback carousel.
If this is the only franchise you've ever owned, would you not consider it to be, I mean, normal to us is what we're surrounded by. I thought my family was normal. I thought I was normal. You start getting out in the world, you say, well, that's not normal. Like, he buys a team, he thinks it's a normal functioning franchise. He doesn't know any better. He doesn't know it's dysfunctional. He doesn't know how messed up it is. He doesn't know how bad the change.
I gave him 1 year to completely goof things up.
Well, 1 year's that.
But what I'm saying is they want. Basically, what they wanted was and I agree with it, consistent success. Okay.
Yeah, a very high bar for this organization.
But what haven't they ever given themselves?
Consistency in the office, in the front office, in the structure.
Consistency to build a team.
Right.
They are now going to be on Head coach
Who
number
has
1 is
that now,
Tice.
though?
Head
how
coach
many
number
teams
2 is
have that
Childress.
now?
This is going to be their 4th head coach hire.
I mean, if they would get lucky with a quarterback in the draft, they'd have consistency. I mean, everything would look good. I mean, other than teams that have elite quarterbacks, who's got the high level of consistency in this
But you give yourself a better chance to have success finding a quarterback in the draft when you have consistency in your front office.
Well,
as much as you might want to rip Ted Thompson,
I don't want to rip him.
Aaron Rodgers free fell through that draft till Ted Thompson finally said, "I'm taking him."
Well, how could he not? He was a top 10 talent. It was 22nd.
It was the mid. Yeah, it was get towards the mid 20s.
Yeah, I know.
Look at the teams that passed.
It's like I can't give the Vikings a ton of credit for taking Moss. It's like, how can you not at that point? He's screaming at you.
All right.
I mean, it's some things just are so obvious you can't pass them.
Leslie Frazier out as Vikings coach. Let's do this. Let's come back and talk about potential replacements. Also, if you want to weigh in on this, 651-646-8255, 651-646-8255. What do you think about what's going on with this team, what the Wilfs have done? Your calls and our thoughts next. Judd and Dubay, Zolgad and Jeff Dubay from the RentersWarehouse.com studio, 1500 ESPN.
January 20th.
Now, that was some brutal camera work by me, but I'm multitasking, and Judd sprung this on me last second. Judd, you want to say anything to the people before we shut it off?
No.
I mean, that was terrible camera work.
It was fine. Just
where are you?
It's going to be posted.
You're like, get out of that light. You look like God.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Good.
You mind if we do?
Oh, no, come on in.
Oh, no.
Judd, I can't see your head. You're so godlike right now.
Seriously.
Post it. All right, we'll do it for post. That's really horrible camera work.